So I want to look at a hadith. It's one of the foundational hadiths of Islam that is from Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, one of the great Sahaba. He was one of the people that had written the entire Quran, very close to the Prophet ﷺ. There are many beautiful hadiths about him. He was one of the ulama of the Sahaba. He was sent with Imam Ali to Yemen. He was brilliant. He loved the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ loved him. In fact, the hadith about to say after every prayer, Allahumma a'inna ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husna ibadatika. Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, he said, Allahumma inni uhibbuka, and this is a musalsal. So he was the one that, hadith musalsal is a hadith in which in each transmission something is done that was done in the previous one. So you have al-musalsal bil-awwaliyah, which is the first hadith that you hear. So when it's transmitted, وَأَوَّلُ حَدِيثٍ سِمِعْتُ مِنْهُ, and that's how the musalsal al-awwaliyah, or the musalsal بِالْقَبْضِ عَلَى الذَّقَنَ وَاللَّحْيَةِ, grabbing onto the lahya, musalsal bi-surat al-Saf. So the musalsal of saying, Allahumma inni uhibbuka, each shaykh would say that to them, and then he would say that the Prophet ﷺ told him that he loved him, and told him to say that after every prayer. And so he relates this hadith. He said, قال قلت يا رسول الله أخبرني بعمل يدخلني الجنة. Tell me about an action that will cause me to enter paradise. ويباعدني عن النار, and it will distance me from hell. This is one of the geniuses of the Sahaba is that they asked for, if you look at the questions of the Sahaba, and it would be worth getting a whole book of all the questions the Sahaba asked. That would be a really useful thing to do, because the Sahaba asked amazing questions. But this is a question, it's a perfect question. Tell me what will cause me to enter paradise and prevent me from going to hell. So if you look at it, the positive and the negative. Tell me what is all the good things, because those are going to get you into paradise, and I want to know what those things that are going to get me into hell. So he's really asking him at the essence. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, قَالَ لَقَدْ سَأَلْتَ عَنْ عَظِيمٍ. You have asked something vast. This is a vast thing, because this is about the human condition. What you're asking about is your eternal fate. How do you make sure that your life is lived in a way that will be felicitous for eternity and avoid wretchedness for eternity? That's what he's asking about. وَإِنَّهُ لَيَسِيرٌ عَلَى مَنْ يَسَّرَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. And this is an easy thing for the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates. كُلُّكُمْ مُيَسِّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. It's an easy thing. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that, he says it's azim, and then he says it's yasir, for the one that Allah gives you taysir. Allah is the muyassir, So this is what he says. And then he says, تَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ لَا تُشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا. This is the first thing. Worship Allah, don't associate with Him anything. Ibadah and no shirk. And that first statement is the foundation of what will get you into paradise and what will avoid hell. And the first commandment in the Quran, in the historical, in the linear passages of the Quran, beginning with Fatiha, ending with Nas, the first command, Ya ayyuhan nas, a'budu rabbakum. Worship your Lord. The first commandment is ibadah. The second commandment, the second is a prohibition, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا. And don't associate with God anything. Don't commit shirk. So the first commandment from Allah is ibadah. The first prohibition is the prohibition of shirk. And this is what he's saying. تَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا. That you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you don't associate with Him anything. وَتُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ. And that you establish prayer. Maintain your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is your ibadah. تُؤْتِيَ الزَّكَاةِ. تَصُومُ رَمَضَانَ وَتَحُجَّ الْبَيْتَ. And then you should pay your zakat, fast Ramadan, and make the pilgrimage to the house. So he gives him the 5 pillars. That this is the foundation of your worship with Allah, and this is what will enter you into paradise. And then he said, and and keep you from the hellfire. And then he says, ثُمَّ قَالَ أَلَا أَدُلُّكَ عَلَى أَبْوَابِ الْخَيْرِ. Can I not indicate to you or direct you to the doors of al-khayr, all good? Can I not give you the doors, open the doors for you, show you the doors so that you can go in of all good? The first thing, as-sawmu junnah. The fasting is a protection. And this is because and I'll get to this later inshallah, about the enemies. وَالصَّدَقَةُ تُطْفِي الْخَطِيئَةَ كَمَا يُطْفِي الْمَاءُ النَّارِ. And charity will put out sins or remove sins or obliterate sins just as water will obliterate fire. Charity. So fasting and charity. And then this is important because one of the things that Muslims tend to, when they become devotional people, they will often take on personal piety and they will forget the social responsibilities. And Islam is a religion that demands a commitment to personal rectification, but also to social rectification. You cannot, and this is why the Prophet is indicating first, Sawm, rectify your soul, and then rectify the society, help the society go out. And then he says, وَصَلَاةُ الرَّجُلِ فِي جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. And then the prayer of a man in the night. So look at, between the social are two spiritual. That this is really the Muslim, that his spiritual concerns, purification of the heart, getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is takhliya, the Sawm is takhliya, emptying out, because it's jihad of the nafs, and then the prayer at the night is tahliya. It's to adorn oneself spiritually. So this is what's and then ثُمَّ تَرَى تَتَجَافَ جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. That they are people that will get up in the night and leave their beds, the enjoyment of their beds. And this is from Surah Al-Sajdah, ثُمَّ تَرَى تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع حتى بلغ يعملون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. They call on their Lord and then they also give out from what we have given them, right? And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم. Then the soul does not know what's been hidden for them, right? من قرة أعين, from all of these delights. جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. And these are rewards for their actions. And there's an explanation for that, but Dr. Omar will cover that about actions, I'm sure, in the Aqidah class, so I'm not going to go into that. And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ثُمَّ قَالَ أَلَا أُخْبِرُكَ بِرَأْسِ الْأَمْرِ وَعَمُودِهِ وَذُرْوَةِ سَنَامِهِ or ذِرْوَةِ سَنَامِهِ. Should I tell you what the Ra's al-Amr is? What the head of this matter is, what's at the foundation of it, and what is its pillar, what will hold it up, and what is its acme, what's the pinnacle of this. And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Mu'az says, قُلْتُ بَلَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, indeed, tell me. And then he says, قَالَ رَأْسُ الْأَمْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ. The Ra's al-Amr is Islam. It's a state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also it could be understood to be a comprehensive term of what Allah has given us. Inna deen and Allah Islam, the deen with Allah is Islam. And so he says that's the Ra's al-Amr, and then he says amuduhu as-salah, and its foundation is the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said, al-ahdu bayni wa baynakum as-salah, faman taraka faqad kafar. The covenant between me and you is the prayer. If you leave the prayer, you've gone into a state of disbelief. In other words, you've broken the covenant. The ulama clarify that to mean if you do it rejecting it. So if a Muslim leaves the prayer, according to the dominant opinion, if he leaves the prayer, but he doesn't leave it believing that it's not obligatory on him, he leaves it out of laziness or heedlessness, something like that, but he still believes it's a condition binding on him, then he's still in Islam. According to the three. Imam Ahmad says even that he's out of Islam, but the dominant opinion is not. And so then he says, وَذُرْوَةُ سَنَامِهِ الْجِهَادِ. That really the acme of this is this struggle. And jihad means defending the lands of the Muslims. It means all of the other things. There's jihad al-asghar wal-akbar. And that division is absolutely sound division, recognized by all of the ulama. This idea, because the hadith is weak, رَجَعْنَا مِنَ الْجِهَادِ الْأَصْغَرِ إِلَى الْجِهَادِ الْأَكْبَرِ. That hadith, the meaning is sound. And the ulama have always accepted that the greater jihad is the jihad of the self or the soul, and the lesser jihad is the jihad of the enemy. So the inward enemies, the four inward, inshallah we'll get to that, the four inward enemies, and if you conquer those inward enemies, the outward enemies are nothing. They're nothing. But the inward enemies are the real enemies of the human being. And then he says, ثُمَّ قَالَ أَلَا أُخْبِرُكَ بِمِلَاكِ ذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ. Can I tell you how to get all of this? Do you want to know how you can get all of this? I mean, this is an amazing statement. Do you want to know how you can obtain all of that? And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, فَأَخَذَ بِلِسَانِهِ, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That blessed tongue that had all those meanings that flowed from it and all that wisdom. He took his tongue. He took hold of his tongue. And he said to him, كُفَّ عَلَيْكَ هَذَا. Just control this. Just control your tongue. That's the milak. That's how tamlikuhu. You'll be able to possess all of those other things if you do this jihad. And then Qudsu, Ya Nabi Allah. He's amazed. Right? Mu'adh. Ya Nabi Allah. Wa inna lamu'akhaduna bima natakallamu bihi. Are we going to be taken to account for what we're talking? Because the Arabs, to them, speech was not action. Their understanding was a man could have words, but he had to be a man of deeds. And the Ayyam al-Arab are all about deeds. The words glorified the deeds. Right? Their poetry was glorification of deeds. And so he's saying, are we going to be taken into account for what we say? And then he says, فَقَالَ ثَكِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ. Right? And this is an Arab idiom that, even though it literally means like your mother is weeping over you as if you've died, but it's a hyperbole to say, you're really missing the point here, And he said, ثَكِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ وَهَلْ يَكُبَّ النَّاسَ فِي النَّارِ عَلَى وُجُوهِهِمْ أَوْ قَالَ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Will people be dragged in the hell on their faces, or he said on their noses, by other than the harvest of their tongues? The harvest of their tongues. So that hadith should be enough to tell you the importance of the tongue. I don't think you need anything else. But there